Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name is Nathan Grant. I'm 32 years old, an electrician with a small contracting crew. I bought a townhouse 5 years back, and for the last 2 years I shared it with my fiancée, Gloria Alvarez. She works as a fundraiser for a community foundation, always juggling events and donors. We had been engaged since last summer, and we're planning to get married in 3 months. The deposits were down, the guest list set, and our families were already booking flights. At first, everything seemed steady. We split bills, made plans for the future, and argued only about small things like grocery brands or what show to watch at night. Then, around early February, I noticed the changes. Gloria began holding her phone close, carrying it from room to room, and turning it face down on the counter. She started working later evenings, saying she was tied up with campaign deadlines. When I asked, "Why so late again?" she smiled without warmth and answered, "Don't start, Nathan. It's just work." The more I paid attention, the clearer the distance felt. Even when we sat together, she seemed absent, scrolling through messages, replying fast, and then hiding the screen. One night, I asked directly, "Is there something going on you're not telling me?" She sighed and said, "You're imagining things. You always want control. Let me breathe." The words stung, not because of their sharpness, but because of the cold tone. I told myself she was just stressed. I picked up more hours on a city lighting contract, often working Saturdays. If she needed space, I would give her space. Yet the more I stepped back, the more she pulled away. What once felt like a partnership was slowly becoming a performance, and deep down, I knew the ground was shifting under us. 2 weeks later, Gloria suggested we meet friends for dinner at a rooftop restaurant. She picked the place and sounded oddly enthusiastic, which surprised me after weeks of cold silence at home. The couple joining us were acquaintances, Harlan Duval, a tax consultant, and his wife, Mireille. At first, conversation moved easily. Mireille asked Gloria about the wedding details. Gloria gave a thin smile and said, "Honestly, I don't even know if I care about flowers anymore. It all feels excessive." Mireille raised her eyebrows, but didn't push. Harlan, trying to keep things upbeat, asked how we first met. Gloria laughed quickly, almost nervously. "Well, I had just gotten out of a messy thing with Jeremiah, an old college boyfriend. Nathan was more stable. Exactly what I needed at the time." The table chuckled politely. I watched her swirl the stem of her glass without taking a sip. She was saying more in what she didn't say than in what she did. Halfway through the meal, Harlan lifted his glass. "To Nathan and Gloria," he said warmly, "may your marriage be strong." Glasses clinked together. I raised mine and drank. Gloria set hers down without touching it, eyes fixed on the table. Silence stretched. Then she spoke slowly, voice low but clear. "Sometimes, I wonder if I made a mistake leaving Jeremiah. With him, I felt alive in ways I don't now. With Nathan, I feel safe. But safe can also mean dull." The table froze. Mireille glanced at me, horrified. Harlan shifted uncomfortably, clearing his throat. I kept my voice steady. "So, in front of our friends, you're saying you regret choosing me?" Gloria's face flushed, but she didn't deny it. "I just miss what we had. Jeremiah understood parts of me you don't." "Then there's nothing more to discuss." "The wedding is off." Mireille gasped. Harlan started, "Nathan, maybe—" I placed a $100 bill on the table and stood. "Enjoy your evening." Then I looked at Gloria. "Pack your things when we get home. You won't spend another night in my house." When we got home, Gloria followed me inside like a shadow. She dropped her purse on a chair and said, "Nathan, please, I didn't mean it the way it sounded." I looked at her calmly. "You said, out loud, that you regret leaving Jeremiah. That wasn't an accident." She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I was under pressure. Everyone keeps asking about the wedding. I got nervous. I shouldn't have said it like that." I kept my tone even. "You didn't slip, Gloria. You meant it. And I won't marry someone who wonders if another man was the better choice." She stepped closer. "So what? You're just throwing away 4 years over one bad comment?" "No," I said. "You threw it away at dinner. I'm only following through." "You'll stay with Nina for now," I told her. Nina Alvarez, her older sister, lived 20 minutes away, and had always been her fallback when she needed space. Pack a bag tonight. Tomorrow I'll move the rest of your things into boxes. She collapsed onto the couch, crying. Nathan, you can't be serious. We can fix this. Counseling, time apart, something. I opened my laptop, logged into the bank, and closed the joint account we had set up for wedding expenses. Then I sent her an email with a subject line, temporary separation, arrangements. It detailed what I expected. Keys returned, no access to accounts, belongings picked up within a week. When she saw me typing, she snapped, "You're treating me like a criminal." I didn't answer. I was already moving forward. The next morning, Gloria's parents called. Marta begged, "She's confused, Nathan." "Give her time," George insisted. "Relationships take work. You can't walk away so easily." I repeated the same line. "I won't compete for my fiancée." Then I hung up. The first week apart was filled with logistics. I called the venue, the caterer, the florist, and the band. Each conversation ended the same way. "Sorry, your deposit is non-refundable." By the time I finished, I had lost nearly $7,000. That was money I had worked overtime for, money I would never see again. I didn't ask Gloria to cover half. The wedding was canceled because of her, but I wanted a clean cut, not another reason to argue. At work, my foreman, Silas Navarro, noticed the strain. "You look like hell, Nathan," he said one afternoon. I told him the wedding was off. He shook his head. "Better now than 10 years from now with kids and lawyers." Word spread quickly through our circle. Gloria was telling people we had grown apart and wanted different things. Mutual friends called me to confirm. I kept my response short. Ask Gloria about Jeremiah. That was enough. I didn't need to smear her. The truth was sharp on its own. A few days later, I got a message from an old acquaintance, Dr. Elodie Marchand, who worked with Gloria at the nonprofit. She wrote, "I don't know the details, but she's not being honest with people here. Just so you know, many of us think you deserved better." The support mattered more than I admitted. For every dollar lost to vendors, I gained clarity. I wasn't going to convince Gloria to choose me. She had already made her choice, first with Jeremiah, then again when she admitted it publicly. At night, the townhouse felt empty, but not unbearable. I cooked simple meals, studied for the master electrician exam, and let the silence settle. There was pain, yes, but there was also relief. The performance was over. 2 months after the dinner debacle, I was assigned to a civic center renovation downtown. The project was massive, and that's where I first met Evelyn Cho. She was a structural engineer, overseeing load checks on the upper floors. Our first conversation happened over burnt coffee in the break room trailer. She asked, "You're Grant Electric, right?" I nodded. She smiled faintly. "Your crew works fast. Makes my life easier." It wasn't flirting, just professional courtesy. Still, her tone carried a calm I hadn't felt in months. Over the next few weeks, we crossed paths often. Site walkthroughs, safety checks, equipment delays. She was efficient, straightforward, and remembered details I'd mentioned offhand. When I griped about studying for the exam, she asked 2 days later, "How's the prep going?" It was small, but it stood out. One afternoon, while waiting for a delivery, we sat on the steps outside the building. She asked about my work, then about my townhouse. I mentioned the canceled wedding without going into detail. She didn't pry, only said, "That must have been rough. Glad you're standing tall." I answered honestly, "I'm separated, not shopping." She nodded, no offense taken. Good. Rushing never builds anything worth keeping. That became the rhythm. Casual talks, nothing heavy. She sent me an article about electrical code updates. I texted her a photo of a collapsed scaffold with the caption, "Your nightmare." She laughed in reply. It was different from Gloria. No drama, no guarded phone, no games, just steady back and forth. I wasn't falling head first, and I wasn't trying to. But I realized something. Being around Evelyn felt easy, natural, like breathing after months of smoke. News traveled faster than I expected. A mutual friend, Desmond Varela, called me late one night, barely holding back laughter. "You won't believe this," he said. "Jeremiah dumped Gloria. Told people it was nostalgia, not a future." I leaned back in my chair, let the words sink in. 8 weeks. That was all it took for her passion to collapse. Desmond added, "She's been calling him nonstop. He blocked her." Not long after, I started getting calls from unknown numbers. I didn't answer. Then came the social media posts, long captions about choosing yourself and not settling for less. At first, the comments were supportive. Then people began asking, "Didn't you leave Nathan for Jeremiah?" The posts vanished soon after. By the time I passed my master electrician exam, I had stopped thinking about her altogether. My family threw a small party at the townhouse. My parents showed up with champagne, and a few coworkers dropped by. Evelyn came too, quiet but comfortable among strangers. Around dusk, the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there was Gloria, holding a gift bag, smiling like nothing had happened. "Congratulations, Nathan," she said. "I just wanted to drop this off." Behind me, voices carried from the kitchen. Evelyn stepped into the hallway, holding 2 glasses. Gloria's expression cracked when she saw her. "Who's this?" she asked sharply. I answered evenly. "Evelyn. A friend." Gloria's voice rose. "Already? It's only been 2 months. You didn't even fight for us." "Gloria, you need to leave." Gloria's eyes darted between me and Evelyn, panic mixing with anger. "You're replacing me like I meant nothing." I stayed calm. "No, you replaced yourself when you admitted you wanted Jeremiah." All I did was listen. Her face hardened, then she stormed down the steps, gift bag still in hand. Inside, Evelyn set the glasses on the table without a word. She didn't press, didn't comment. She just stayed. That silence meant more than anything Gloria had ever shouted. After the exam party, Gloria tried one more angle. She sent me a long email with the subject line, "For closure." The message was 3 pages of excuses. How she'd been confused, how she felt pressured by the wedding, how I abandoned her when she needed reassurance. Not a single mention of Jeremiah. I didn't reply. I archived it and moved on. That week, I finished transferring every utility and account into my name. Health insurance, car insurance, even the streaming services. No ties left. The last piece was the joint storage unit we had rented for extra furniture. I cleared it out in one afternoon, donated what I didn't want, and closed the lease. Gloria's parents tried again. Marta left a voicemail, voice trembling. "She's hurting, Nathan. Please just meet her once." George followed with an email. "You're giving up too easily. Relationships take perseverance." I deleted both. They weren't the ones who had to live with someone still measuring me against an old flame. Meanwhile, things with Evelyn grew naturally. We weren't rushing. She joined me for dinner once a week, then twice. Months later, she started spending more nights at my place than at her apartment. When she suggested consolidating, it felt practical, not forced. One evening, as we were unpacking her boxes in the townhouse, she paused by the wooden valet tray I'd built years ago. "What's this?" she asked. "Something I made for Gloria," I said. "She never used it." Evelyn placed her keys inside and smiled. "Then I'll use it." That simple act meant more than the $1,000 deposits I'd lost. It was proof that the past was over, and I had drawn a clean line under it. A year after that rooftop dinner, life looked different. I had my master's license framed on the office wall, steady work for my crew, and a home that finally felt peaceful again. Evelyn and I planned a weekend by the river, just the 2 of us. No spectacle, no crowd. I pulled a small box from my pocket and said, "What do you think about building something permanent with me?" She laughed through happy tears and said yes. 2 weeks later, a mutual friend handed me an envelope. Gloria asked me to pass this along. Said it was her last try. I considered tossing it unopened, but curiosity won. It was a handwritten letter. She claimed therapy had shown her that Jeremiah was only a fantasy, that she'd mistaken a fleeting spark for lasting love. She wrote, "You were the real thing. I regret everything. I would fight for us now if you let me." I folded the letter, placed it in a file labeled "Closed," and never responded. Some doors aren't meant to be reopened. Gloria had mistaken noise for music, sparks for fire. I had nearly fallen into the same trap, confusing safety with boredom, when in truth, consistency is what keeps a life running. She chose chaos. I chose current. Thank you for watching.